So we're using something called Wingman. And what it does is it records every call that we have. So just like if we were on a Zoom call right now, it just record it, it takes notes, and then it grades you afterwards. So you go in and it's like, here's how you controlled the conversation. Here's how you dominated the conversation. Here's the takeaways from it, your to-dos that you said you were going to do this, you're going to do this. And then what the coolest part about it is I can go back into every single call or all calls and I can search keywords. So I'll just give you a perfect example. We'll have clients say, we didn't know you were changing our website. You never said that anything about changing our website, right? So we go back to the sales call, type in the word website, boop, here we go. And then we have the video of it. And this kind of technology can be applied to, it doesn't have to be a Zoom call, right? It could be a voice call. It could be anything. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. Welcome to another episode of Dental Marketing Theory. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the CEO of SMC National, where we provide predictable new patient flow for offices just like yours. And I have the best job in the world because I get to talk to really cool people who do really cool things. And today I have Kevin, who's the CEO of Mango. And I'm just going to jump right into this. Kevin, why don't you tell us what you were doing before you got into the dental industry, because you are a serial entrepreneur. And I would love for you kind of shared that story the last time we talked, and I would love for you to give the background on that.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me. I think we met face to face about a little over a month ago. And it was great to meet you and excited to be here. So yeah, my story is a little unique in how I got here. But prior to this, me and a business partner, while we were in college, started a oil field services company. And this is when the boom in North Dakota was happening. It was the Wild West and things were just going gangbusters. And we thought, well, we'll see if we can capitalize on it. So originally started as an equipment leasing company up in North Dakota, leasing out.
That was all like the fracking stuff that was going on, right?
Yep. So this is when fracking really hit, the Bakken, which is the oil field up there. This is when it first kind of hit mainstream. And so we leased out equipment. And then what happened was there was a transportation company up there that sold to a big public company. And so we thought, well, we've got the equipment. Let's give that a shot. And we started with one truck and one trailer and went out and hustled. And by the end, we had over 300 and moved over 100,000 barrels of crude oil and production water every day, and sold to a Fortune 100 company. And yeah, it was a trip.
Hey, sorry to disrupt the show, but I just have a quick commercial for you. We are going to be hosting 4 events over the next 12 months, and we're doing a little bit of everything for everybody. We have something around Full Arch. We have something for those that manage marketing. We have something for those that want to scale their practice at Dykema. And then also we have something next year that's for everybody in your practice to learn business skills and to really maximize the opportunities for you to grow your offices. You're not going to want to miss these. Visit smcnational.com/events. These are going to be the premier events that you're going to want to go to make sure that you're getting the tactical skills that you need to continue to grow the way that you want. Because at SMC, we're all about growing. That is so crazy. So you were the guy selling the shovels to the gold miners, so to speak.
Initially, yes. Yeah. We're like, oh, you need a trailer and you can't get one. We have them. And it was absolutely crazy. And the beauty of it is, that allowed us really just to basically stockpile a ton of cash. So that when we went into it, right, we just bought equipment outright, really kind of de-leveraged the risk from the business. And so it gave us flexibility as we grew. But what's crazy is this all happened in this was 8 years from when we started to when we sold it.
Was it just you, or did you have partners?
It was me and a business partner. And
that's awesome.
He was the kind of the main sales guy out there hustling, and I was the ops guy, and it works well. He's my polar opposite, so it works. And
you said you sold it. You sold the company to a bigger company. Are you allowed to disclose or talk about any of that, like how that went?
Yeah, we usually don't talk about it, but yeah, it was a big Fortune 100 company. So I mean, they had more attorneys than we had employees. It was a interesting. It's an interesting experience for when you build a company and then when you sell to a bigger company, it's such a culture shock to you because it really becomes about bureaucracy, about getting through the layers, right? And you're sitting here saying, well, we could sit in a room for 30 minutes and decide on a strategy and we could go execute on it. But now we got to call a board meeting and now you got to have all these people involved. And it's a really interesting dynamic, how that worked. And it made us really understand that we want nothing to do with that world.
So okay, so you sold that company. So you jumped into the oil business and you were providing trailers, trucks, and water, moving things around for people. And so you sold that. Now you're out of that. And did you have your next business lined up already, or did you kind of sell and then go, okay, now what am I going to do?
And my business partner stayed there to run it, and I left after the sell. And I took about 6 months to feel like I was human again, to just maybe reconnect with my family a little bit. And then what happened is the founder of Mango is he just lives down the street from me. We go to church together. And after about 6 months, I started to get the itch again. And it's kind of funny because after we sold our first company, I told my wife, I said, if I ever come to you and tell you I want to do this again, you just throw punch me, right? Sure enough, about 6 months later, I came in, I said, hey, Court, I just met with Dave, the founder of Mango. It's really interesting what they're doing. I think I found our next venture. And she just looked at me. She's like, don't ask me for sympathy on this one. And we ended up, in April of 2018, we invested in Mango. Dave had a business partner. We bought him out, kind of recapped the business, and came on board to help Mango scale and grow.
Why Mango? Like, why did you want to get into Mango? What was it about that attracted you after being in the business that you were recently in?
Yeah, so the business that we were in, part of what we did is we actually built the software for the oil fields. And, we're scaling a highly capital intensive business, right? So if you talk about kind of the markers that you probably traditionally really want to avoid in business, heavily capital intensive, right? Heavily regulated, oil's a commodity that's heavily regulated. It's 24/7. Our operations never stop. High turnover, oil field, personalities are tough. But we had a software component, and we learned really quickly that the scale of software is so much easier than the scale of like human capital and moving physical assets. And so we kind of knew if we were going to do something again, it's going to be in the software side, because there again, just your scalability and your reach is so much easier. I'm not saying it's easy. It's easier than what we were doing, we thought. And so that's why that attracted us to the technology. Is the beauty of it is it just scales, right? And the other nice thing is my nights and weekends aren't busy with operations like they were. So it gave us some additional freedom that way that we've enjoyed.
Was Mango just dental at the time, or were you guys also in other verticals as well at that time?
Yeah, so Mango was started in 2013, right? And as any entrepreneur will say, you're going to get whoever you can on the platform. And so there was just a lot of different kind of SMBs on the platform at this point. But right before we invested, they had met a guy named Glenn Bowe, Nifty Thrifty, and we're starting to get into dental. And that was part of what Dave said. He said, hey, we're getting into dental. There's a real need here. And he kind of laid out that strategy for us. And, as we kind of dug into the dental space and started to understand the market a little bit more, it got us excited. And we felt like our skill set could really benefit Mango too. So, really where our skill set is good accounting processes, good reporting, things like that, getting the kind of the key foundation in place for scale. Because if you don't have that, that's what eats you alive. So, that was kind of the genesis of us stepping into Mango, was kind of their genesis of getting into the dental space.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then when did you realize, okay, this is a massive opportunity? once you're in and you're working and you're going, okay, here's where the opportunity lies. What was the thing that kind of made Mango different than, say, every other investment that you could have made out there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a tough question in the sense of, whenever you make an investment, you go in really kind of focused on, hey, we're going to be the secret sauce. We'll get this to where it was going. And I'll be honest, that first year at Mango was just absolutely brutal. And I remember, calling my business partner about 6 months into it and saying, hey, man, you better start mentally preparing that check we just wrote is going to zero. Because, we've got some real technology challenges. We had some major outages. And, when you're talking about the phone systems, which are the main artery into the practice, when those things don't work, it's very problematic, right? If you have a cloud application that glitches for a little bit, but if we blip for a couple milliseconds, it's problematic for that practice. And it was a real painful experience, and thought it was really humbling because we went into it thinking, hey, we kind of know what we're doing. And it was quick that, like, yeah, this is going to be a slog. And that first year and a half was just a grind of like trying to get it together, trying to figure out how we scale this thing. A lot of, customer interactions, apologizing that we aren't meeting that kind of expectation. But I think, if you can get in front of these things and just be authentic and honest with people, I think that's what's really important. I think a lot of businesses today, Gary, have become so cold and not personable. And that's really what we base Mango around is our support and our interaction. And the other thing is people know they can message me. I'll give you my cell phone number. Like, we're accessible. We're here to help you. And it sounds cliche and it sounds corny, but I firmly believe this is like a lost art. And I think the companies that do a really good job at this are the ones that really build long-term value.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There's a shift that's happening in all industries where, brands are less impactful, and there's faces that are tied to the brands more so than the brands themselves. And a perfect example of this is like Tesla. We all think of Tesla as Tesla, but what if Elon Musk sold Tesla? Our opinions would all change of Tesla instantly, no matter who bought it, right? Like overnight, even though they sold the exact same car and they did this exact same thing. And that's a big example, but you're seeing this on a smaller level as well, where companies are really making an effort to tie faces back to their brands. And the reason for that is because you can talk to faces, you can relate with faces. You can't really relate with brands quite as much. And apparel companies have understood this for a long time, where if you want to sell shoes, what do? You go tie a face to the shoe, and that helps you sell that shoe. Now you have to pay a lot of money for that, but I really believe that that's the future, is that people really want to connect with people. And the more you can tie a face to a brand, the better off you're going to be, especially in just the industry that we're in, or even any other industries that are similar to ours. So where do you, kind of changing gears on you a little bit, where do you see things heading for you guys? I know you guys have some cool stuff that you're working on. You've shared some of it with me. I don't know what we can share here on this podcast, but where do you kind of see the road going for you and Mango?
Yeah, I think for us, when you look at technology and the adoption of technology, so first of all, the adoption of VoIP technology, which what's interesting, when you talk to people, they think there's actually a mass adoption of VoIP. It's actually it's actually sub 20% of the market has adopted VoIP, right? So I think there's still a long runway
just
when
for
it comes.
Everybody, and just for everybody listening, VoIP is voice over IP. So basically, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, it's basically putting your phones over internet rather than through wires into your office. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Yep. So it just works over the internet. The beauty of it gives you flexibility from kind of a distributed workforce perspective. The other nice thing about these cloud applications is they're so much easier to talk to each other in a cloud environment versus a traditional on-prem. It can be done, but most people are still on old hardwired landlines, right? And I think, when you look at COVID and some of these other things, people learned really quick, hey, if I'm not in the office, I can't communicate. And what do we do now? And the way that we work has changed. And so, I think the adoption of just this kind of what people perceive as an everyday technology. I think there's still road to go there. I think us understanding voice and what happens on voice is in its infancy. And if you think about from a practice perspective, and whether it's a dental practice or a law firm or a CPA firm, it doesn't matter. The main way that we communicate with our customers or patients is still voice. And especially new people to a practice, they're going to call you. And the reason they're going to call you is they're going to get a sense of what that experience is going to be like. And I tell people this all the time. I say, how do you know interactions with your patients are going? And I say the same thing. I don't know how every interaction at Mango's going. And that's problematic because those interactions are what drive value to the practice. And so I think you're going to see a lot of really interesting technology helping people understand how those interactions are going, because if you can identify those issues and change behavior, that's a real value creator, right? And you as a marketer, right? It's probably this thing of, we're getting you leads, but you're not converting on those. And you're not converting because you don't know how to talk to people and to hook them on whatever you're trying to get them in the door with.
Yeah, 100%. So we're using something called Wingman. And what it does is it records every call that we have. So just like if we were on a Zoom call right now, it just record it, it takes notes, and then it grades you afterwards. So you go in and it's like, here's how you controlled the conversation. Here's how you dominated the conversation. Here's the takeaways from it, your to-dos that you said you were going to do this, you're going to do this. And then what the coolest part about it is I can go back into every single call or all calls and I can search keywords. So I'll just give you a perfect example. We'll have clients say, we didn't know you were changing our website. You never said that anything about changing our website, right? So we go back to the sales call, type in the word website, boop, here we go. And then we have the video of it. And this kind of technology can be applied to, it doesn't have to be a Zoom call, right? It could be a voice call. It could be anything. And just to see, just in the last 6 months, how much that AI has really started to play a part in those kind of calls has been crazy to watch. What are your thoughts on AI and how that's going to look and feel in the near future?
Yeah, I think machine learning, these types of technologies are going to become more prevalent in our everyday life. I kind of equate AI to the late 90s and the dot-com bubble. There's a real euphoria around it right now, and you're going to see a ton, when I say a ton, massive capital over the next 24 to 48 months flow into artificial intelligence. I don't think anybody's cracked the code. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think just like, Google came out of the dot-com bubble, you're going to see probably a couple real behemoths come out of this thing that are going to own that market. But I'm interested to see what happens. I still think there's a ton of room for technology to automate processes that are quite things that humans just don't want to do. They're boring, they're redundant.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yep.
Which will free up, especially in a practice, really free that practice up to drive value. And for me, personally, that value comes with interacting with patients, creating a good experience. People feel, warm and fuzzy when you come into the practice. Things that as humans we all want. So it's going to be, I think, pretty fascinating to watch the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's so interesting because for the last 10 years, maybe longer, just in the marketing industry, it's been marketing automation. We're going to automate everything. Everything's going to be automated, and it's not right now. It's so segmented, right? Just every step of the marketing process is just painful, and you gotta connect it, and then you get data, and the data isn't right. Same thing dental goes through, right? But now we're starting to see some of the pieces that can actually bridge some of those things together. So I feel like we just came out of the blockchain revolution, you know what I mean? And it was like, okay, well, what's the application? How am I going to use this? And I still think there's some cool use cases, but it seems that AI has way more use cases for like instantly solving some of those lower hanging fruit things that you were just addressing. And I'm honestly really excited about it. I think I know a lot of, for some people it scares them, right? Because it's like, is this going to take my job? But I see it as an opportunity to have people focus on higher level stuff, things that are more important. As an example, at the dental office, taking care of the actual patient rather than doing billing. You know what I mean? The billing part of it, the patient has no idea all the pains and stuff that you go through just to get the money from the insurance company. But a lot of that can be automated with AI, and it will be. And so that will free up a human in the office to spend more time with the patient.
And you're starting to see the application, right? Companies like Pearl, these other ones that are really trying to build in these systems that go through. Because as humans, we're not great at certain things, right? In details, we have a tendency to not be great at, and redundant details specifically, right? Like, I tell people, let's pull up this spreadsheet that, has 30 tabs and let's go line by line, right? And most people's eyes glaze over and they're like, please, no, this is painful. Where a machine's like, great, just tell me what to do. And, I'll go through and find problem areas for you and you can solve them.
Yeah, 100%. That's really cool. Where do you think right now the biggest opportunity in the voiceover IP world is? Where do you think like the shortcomings of the industry is, and where do you see that? How do you see that changing?
I think there's a couple big shortcomings. And what I tell people a lot is I say, first shortcoming is, tell me the last time you were excited to call Comcast or Spectrum, right? The answer is never, right?
Yeah.
You gotta take a Xanax, you gotta meditate and block out the next 2 hours of your life and just pray that after you get transferred 10 times, you're going to get your problem solved. So that's really what we focused on at Mango, is making it as easy as possible to get your issues solved. I think that's a huge opportunity. The second opportunity I see is when you look at a lot of VoIP providers, you have the Ring Centrals, the Nextivas, the 8x8s. These guys are big companies, right? But they're migrating more towards these enterprise customers. And it's kind of a natural evolution, it seems like. And I think there's not a lot of phone providers that have been really kind of vertical specific and really tried to address the issues within those verticals. And that's really what we're focused on is marrying marketing and phones and some of these other technologies to give much more visibility. The problem is these guys want to kind of throw out a wide net and grow as fast as possible. Where we're really more focused on, okay, what are the potential opportunities within dental, and how do we address those? And what are the tools we can build? And there's really nobody that's really doing this in our space. So we're excited about the opportunities. And
yeah, I'm with you. I think when you niche down like that, it gives you such a competitive advantage to everybody else and anything else, right? It just creates a massive opportunity, and it makes you really the leader, because if everybody else is focused on, hotels and other verticals that they have their own set of problems that I don't even, want to learn about. So yeah, you guys, I think that's huge. And I definitely agree with you. Calling those bigger companies and trying to get help is like the worst thing in the world. It's so painful. And if you can address that when it comes up, that I think that's really, really big. If someone wants to reach out to you and learn more about what you guys are doing, tell me this. Who do you guys serve? Like, who's the main person that you guys are looking at serving right now inside the dental industry?
Yeah. So, historically, we've really been kind of focused on more single offices. We do have larger multi-locations, right? 50, 100 locations. But that's an area that we're kind of getting into more and more. But really, we love the single dental office. They're awesome. We have great relationships with them. And so we are really focused heavily in dental. So about 85% of our customer base is in dental. And, we're serving over 5,000 dental offices every day, and, growing. And so I think there's opportunities in these larger ones, but there's also this market where, these smaller, call them smaller DSOs and single offices, they need these services too. And so we've kind of taken the approach of starting there and growing and understanding the market. And I think it's served us well.
And when do you think is the right time to actually start looking at your call tree? Like so our audience is that like 5 to 10 DSO, they're growing, They want to grow to 100 practices is their goal. That's kind of who listens to this show. So what would you say to them is like, here's when you should really start thinking about looking at different phone options?
Yeah, to me is when you start your first one or you have one, because I go back to this and say the main way you're corresponding with patients is through your phones. And find a phone service, one that can give you flexibility, right? So Mango has some pretty incredible technology. We're one of only, a couple companies in the country that have a true drag and drop interface to make it easy to lay out your call flow. You can do all these different things with it. And so I would say, if I was to own a dental practice, this is something I would be hyper focused on, is how are my people interacting on the phone? Because I know people don't like to hear this, and I know it, but those front people really are your sales team. They are selling your practice. And selling is not a negative thing. It's basically they're communicating the experience that they're going to have in the practice. And if they can sell that and communicate that the right way, it's going to be so much more valuable for your practice. And so I think it's an area that is so critical, but it's an area that's often neglected. And we don't think of it in the context of sales, because I know that has a negative connotation, at least in the dental space, but that's really what they're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's sales and customer service. I mean, really at the core of it, that's what you're dealing with, is either the person's calling you saying, hey, should I pick you? Or, hey, I've picked you, now I need help with something. And that's where you're going to deal with the phone calls. And it's going to be, I know some people come out and say, oh, we got online schedulers now, or we got online chats, phones aren't needed anymore. We're so far away from that. People still have so many questions. And we're seeing about 80% of the traffic that comes to a website is going to come through the phone on the new patient side, give or take a little bit depending on your market. And then from there, 35% of the time, the phones aren't even being answered. So just tracking, are you answering the phone? To your point, like, forget scripting, forget sales, forget customer service. Are you answering the phone during normal business hours? Most practices don't even have clarity around that. So just getting clarity on that, humongous.
You're spot on. So we did over 6 million dental calls last month, and the average answer rate across the 6 million was 74%.
That's actually pretty good for the dental industry.
Yeah. But you think about how fast are you responding to those 26% that got away? How much value is there? Things like that just become so critical to the drivers of the business, right? And this, to be a prudent business manager, like, you got to know the levers to push and pull and when to push and pull them. And understanding those dynamics have massive long-term implications.
Yeah. A lot of people are like, oh, we're struggling. And it's like, if you answered your phone, you'd probably close that gap, right? It's little things. And it's it's not like crazy labor intensive. I mean, maybe you might have to add a person, but there's a lot of options now too. Offshoring some of the phone calls. I mean, there's so many different things you can do to solve that problem. Then once you answer the phones, then conversion becomes the whole next, now we can talk about conversion, because, we see about 50% of marketing calls get converted if you don't pay attention to it. So it's a coin flip, basically. Every marketing person, marketing lead that's going to call, one's going to schedule, the next one's not. One's going to schedule, unless you get hyper focused on individual KPIs. And I know you guys are doing stuff with that too, which is really, really cool. Well, this has been really good. I've really enjoyed hearing your entrepreneurial journey. I know it'll encourage other people. I appreciate everything you guys are doing in the dental industry. If someone wants to reach out and say, hey, I want to learn more about what Mango's doing, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, just go to mangovoice.com, and our website's got some great information. You can see who we're integrated with. And there's phone numbers and forms that you can get a hold of us. Not a surprise to a lot of people. We're everywhere on Facebook. Myself and Rich, we're pretty active. And it's actually cool for me, real quick, Gary, is when I'm on Facebook, that's me. Like, I'm interacting. Yeah, it's not someone for me. I love that interaction with people and our customers on Facebook. It's incredible. It's one of the things I love most. Facebook's been. I will
say you guys do a good job of provoking good information and even problems. I've seen you deal with someone, hey, I'm not happy about X, Y, and Z, and you go and deal with it. And I love that, because I try to be the same way. Is just like, hey, everybody got problems. I got problems. Every company has problems. But it's not really about do you have problems or not, because everybody has them. Every dental office has them. It's how do you deal with it, and are you going to be there for people when they need to fix it? And so you guys do a great job of that, and I appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing your journey today.
Yeah, thank you. This has been awesome. I appreciate it.